All right. Hello. Hey, it's top of the hour. Thank you everyone for being here. Little introduction. My name is Greg Catano. I'm co-founder, CEO of Cosmos Collab, and just trying to bring the universe together to collaborate. And, I'm also the executive committee member for the TV Academy, Emerging Media. So, always trying to lean into new technologies, and which is why I'm really excited about this panel on sports and arenas and the whole fan engagement, that I feel that sports has been leading the charge for emerging media for a long time. It seems like with all these traditional forms of media, and I've been in entertainment for about 30 years, and the traditional forms of television, as we all kind of have seen, we're all a little challenged right now looking for that new technology that is going to, make things innovative, and looking for new forms of revenue, but also the audience and this attention economy that we're all challenged with. There's so many different ways that people could consume content. And then when I look at sports and you look at the formula for sports, you got the distribution because people are actually going to these venues. So you got the foot traffic. You have the fan engagement because with the esteemed panelists that are on the stage right now, and with many of you, we're looking at how does emerging technologies really help to engage not only the audience, but also the sponsors. Sponsors, as we all know, they're always looking for new ways that they're going to get promotion, not just their logo on another LED screen, but what are the ways that we're going to get the fans to remember their brand, even after the game is over. And so these gentlemen have really worked with the companies, and there's many more out there that are really seeing that this is different from a commercial. This is different from, ads that you see on a billboard or on a bus stop. Is that it's not only engaging, but people remember that, wow, they incorporated that brand into the gaming experience. I mean, and I'll get into more about what these guys are doing. I wanted to first welcome everyone, and thank you for all of you to be here. You took your time out to be at our talk, and I'm sure a lot of you are looking for, what are these companies doing? What are these companies doing to increase the engagement with fans? So glad you're all here. And I'm going to go into the introductions. So, first, let's start with Nico. Maybe all of you give a 1 to 2 minute introduction. So we have Nico Ávila.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Nico Ávila. I'm CTO for entertainment with Globant. Globant's a 30,000, people organization, creating experiences through technology around the world. We basically focus on, helping companies that want to change the way that they connect with their consumers, with their guests, with their audience, and they see that technology is the way to do that. So we help them do that. And I'm happy to share some of the things that we've done today.
Devin Pullman. Hi, Devin Pullman. I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer for Cosm. If you're not familiar with Cosm, there's a lot of history that predates this, but in the last year, we launched our 2 venues in Los Angeles and Dallas, focused around shared reality. This idea of capturing with the AR, VR, XR style technologies, but bringing that into a visible space. So in our venues, you're watching the biggest and best live sporting events. We're talking, not just the Final Four tonight, the women's Final Four yesterday, NFL, college football, NBA, hockey, WWE, UFC, all the biggest best events coming into our venues. So really totally different. New type of venue for live entertainment.
Yeah. Dan, well.
Hello. Thanks for coming. So my name's Dan. I'm the VP of Sales over at Disguise. So although many people here may not know what Disguise is, there's a really good chance that you've interacted with it. We're a technology platform that powers some of the most spectacular visuals and broadcasts throughout the world. Whether that be the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, whether that be ESPN Sports Center, whether that be some of the most game-changing venues, literally, playing different sports, or even that big sphere that we probably all stared at quite a bit. Our technology is at the heart of that. And what we're doing is working with technologists that are looking to really push the boundaries of what they want to do in a venue, what they want to do in an experience, So yeah, that's Disguise in a nutshell.
All right. And last but not least, we have Jacob Lutz.
Yep. Hey, everybody. My name is Jacob Lutz. I'm Director of Technical Operations for the National Predators Organization, which includes Bridgestone Arena. A 20-time Polestar Venue of the Year nominee, 7-time CMA award-winning venue. And, we want to be the biggest party in Nashville. We're a non-traditional hockey market. Our fan base is unique. Our experience is unique. If you're a hockey fan, you've probably seen Nashville and know that we do things a little bit differently. So part of that's our production and how we do it. Drive fan interaction and keep our status as the biggest party that on Broadway.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. So first off, I'm going to talk about how these companies are creating this 360-degree experience. And I'm a Clippers fan. I'm in Los Angeles Clippers fan. And I went to the Intuit Dome recently, and with Globant coming up with all the technology, and when you walk in the door, facial recognition doesn't even require me to bring up my ticket. I walk through, they have a little tablet in front of them. They just nod their head. I walk in, like the Amazon Go stores, you walk in to get a concession, just walk right out. Already knows to, charge my card. There's game controllers in the armrests of the seats, and it looks like a little PlayStation keypad. And now I'm playing games that are on my Halo board. And when I heard that Globant was going to be on this panel, and I realized that they've created this 360-degree experience to elevate the game for myself as a fan. And I'm sure that other stadiums are going to follow suit. So if Eddie, Nico, you can talk a little bit about how did that all come together, and it's not just the app. I mean, all that is going through the app that I'm holding on my phone, but how do you then work with the Clippers and the developers and figure out how all that is?
Sure. It takes an army to build an arena, and I wish I would have known it before because it was a lot of work. Reality is that, we work with innovation with many companies, many of the lot companies that we know for in theme parks, in cruise lines, in media. So whenever we hear about something new that's coming our way, sometimes it sounds better than in reality is. The Intuit Dome was one that actually, it sounded good, but it ended up being great. And I think it all starts with a vision, right? I think Steve Ballmer's is super fun. You see him by the sidelines, and he's cheering by the team every game. He wants to reward the fan. I think it's some people say Intuit Dome was his love letter to the fan, and he really meant it. It was not necessarily about making a bigger arena. It was not necessarily about using the best of technology. It was about how do I make it so that my fans have the best time possible. So we embarked in a journey with that guideline. We embarked in a journey with Clippers, going around the world, looking at the solutions that were available, but more importantly at the problems, right? And what we found is that it's no surprise everybody spends time in their away from their seats, waiting. And of course you have different crowds in Europe than you have in the US. But reality is that there's a common thread of we're not really going there to enjoy what we paid to go do. And sometimes we get recognized for actually spending time away from the court. Like, I'm going to give you points for buying a hot dog. Reality is I want you to be cheering for the team. So the fan wants the team to win. And how do we make it happen? So we looked at all of the technology that could help you. And of course, getting you in the venue was important. How do we actually get you there faster? How do you actually make it so that you go buy a hot dog, and you don't have to spend 10 minutes waiting in line for that? That was another point. But we also thought a lot on the collective. How do you spend time together and make people enjoy being part of that? Because I think we've all realized how much people value today the live entertainment. Like, you can watch anything from your house, but you choose to go to an arena and be part of a collective and spend time with your friends and what else. So all of the technology was built from getting main access to be able to use biometrics. This was because it was going to be not breaking your step and just getting there faster. And in that same process, I think we allowed for Clippers to learn a lot more about their fans, and it's going to help them down the road in giving them even the rewards.
movie theaters really struggling with trying to get the audience back in the seats. And something I'm going to segue over to Devin and Cosm. Cosm is going to be having the Matrix back in the theater, and just to see what they're going to do to add to the experience. What was amazing during the Dodgers run at the World Series is that they had confetti and t-shirt cannons in the game, during the experience. So they're watching the movie, or not the movie, they're watching the live stream in the dome, and then confetti's falling in their hands. So they're integrating that live experience right into this brick and mortar venue. And so if we can talk a little bit, or if you could talk a little bit about how you guys are coming up with these ideas to add to that experience.
Well, first of all, no confetti cannons at the Matrix. Right. There might be the Matrix code raining. Yeah. I won't give away too much there. That's an announcement we made last week. Really excited about that. That comes out in June. And really rethinking kind of what that experience is. But the central tenet, and it's consistent with what Nico was saying, was the focus on the fan, right? And the focus on the fan and a communal experience. And why do people, love sports so much? It's not just because they want to root for their team on their couch at home. It's they want that experience being at the stadium and being around other fans, cheering, high-fiving a stranger you've never met before. I'll say the things that I've seen in our venue, that are testament to what some of the things we're doing right. T-shirts flying off, people in full. There's a Troy Polamalu lookalike who's been at several of our Steelers games. Cause we're capturing these live events, at 8 and 10.5K, bringing them live, putting you inside of a 90-foot LED dome. It is like you're there. We're giving you 4 to 5 camera angles, on the pitch, courtside, in the octagon, you name it. We've had moments where the stands at a stadium are doing the wave, and the wave comes around. And by the way, we're on comms with our production team, and we're saying, stay on this high wide shot. And you see that everybody's noticing the wave comes around, and sure enough, everybody in our venue stands up and does the wave together. But it really comes down to this focus on that communal experience for fans. When we do wonderful events like hosting the official Dodgers watch party for the World Series, how can we, beyond technology, because let's be honest, the technology is not there. That's not the thing, right? It might wow people, but the thing is the experience. And it's the same thing coming back to why Intuit, people talk so much about the technology. The reality is there's a great fundamental thesis behind why you put this technology to play in the first place, which is to serve the fans. And so for us, it was, what do I as a sports fan, big time Dodgers fan, want, and more Lakers fan, sorry, Greg. What do I want as a fan? Yeah. And you want to celebrate that winning moment. I was literally standing right next to and cueing the operator on the, confetti cannon when the Dodgers won. You want those moments that are memorable. And that is just as important, as the, incredible resolution and technology, that's on the ground, on the display and driving the venue. It's really the experience that matters.
And then Jacob, not only are you overseeing the experience for the fans for the Nashville Predators, right, but the entire arena, the entire Bridgestone Arena, and that's concerts and events just before you came to NAB. So, right, how do you take that all in and really figure out the different applications for all these different experiences?
Well, every event that we have, the end goal is, the best fan experience, right? We can have the best dressing room in the world. We can have the best artists in the world. We can have the best show in the world, the best sporting event, the best team. If the fans aren't there, the fans aren't happy, why are we doing it, right? So everything really focuses around that. I tell my staff every day, our business is to give people goosebumps, right? That's what we do. So, again, technology is important. A concert comes in, the tour is going to do their own thing. We're going to work, pretty heavily with them to make sure, that we give them the best experience possible. But it's, the moment from when you walk in the door to when you leave, we want to be strategic about things. We want things to be aesthetic. Long gone are the days of slapping 300 TVs on your concourse and calling it a day, right? If people are looking for that wow factor, and we've kind of done it by picking out some key pieces of technology. So, LED, really engaging content, taking it to the next level. And, it goes down to the little things like, even how long do people spend in bathroom lines, right? And any little piece that we can do to, improve that experience, drives that, which drives revenue and drives success. And that's, really kind of our business model is anything we can do where when you're walking in the door and you're walking out, you're happy when you're there. Then when you're in your seats, you're getting goosebumps at least twice. That's a good day.
In our prep call, which I really love hearing about, is that you're looking at what technologies will help the hearing and vision impaired. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many technologies, right now. And, take hockey, for instance, there's player puck tracking technology. Every player wears a chip. We have the data for the players. And we're able to use it for things like ice projection. TV broadcast is able to use it. There's so many different use cases for it. There's a really cool use case right now, and it's still very early. There's some companies that are adopting it throughout, different leagues. We saw it at the NBA All-Stars with, a company that's doing haptic touch, for the visually impaired. I think, on the tablets. I'm trying to think the team that had it, and there's technology with that. There's assisted listening systems. There's what we're able to do right now is on our app tie in, to our Wi-Fi system 5G network to provide where, have closed captioning on your phone. So you're no longer looking, up at a board, squinting your eyes trying to see it. You can see it right there. You can find your audio streams. We have, hockey lore people love to, still break out their Walkmans, put on their headphones and listen to the game over radio, and taking that same technology and using it for, game changing to grow the sport and grow for those individuals. Everything really starts in hockey from player safety and then grows from there. But there's so many other use cases throughout, all of sports to really bring people together. And that's what we thrive upon doing.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Dan, a little bit different from the other three, but, you're vice president of sales, Americas for Disguise. And I'm curious, what do people ask you? I mean, you're sort of the front line of defense, right, to the company. And these companies want to incorporate new technologies into their arenas, into their concerts. And so what type of things are they asking you, so that you can read?
Yeah, good question. So, who we generally work with are people who are looking to just push the boundaries beyond, what people would expect in a normal venue, whether it's, utilizing real-time technology to enhance their graphics with points on a board or, utilizing that game engine technology to create interactive experiences. So yeah, we generally are working with people that are starting at the ground level and saying like, how do we do this? And so with that comes like a pretty big responsibility. So we have, pretty significant, team of developers who are working to iterate the technology in real time. Our biggest backbone is our community. So we have, thousands of clients around the world, that are utilizing this technology, that understand the technology pretty deeply and are constantly looking to, figure out new ways to modify it. And that's, where our big pillar is being able to integrate with a very diverse, amount of technology. So whether it's, different codecs that people need to deliver video, whether it's, synchronizing 23 servers together to get an image on, the world's largest LED wall. Our big value is being able to work with the technologies hands-on and figure out, all right, how do we actually deliver this and what technology do you need to make that experience happen?
The TV Academy worked with Joe, who's out in the audience. Hey, Joe. So Joe is, marketing manager of Americas over at Disguise. And they opened up their studio to take a look at their volumetric stage. But also what really caught my eye was that they had these miniatures of the sets that they were going to be building for. And it was just tiny, I don't know what scale, 1/16, it's really tiny. And they also even had an LED floor and walls of when they worked with the NBA All-Star game. So just amazing tools that you guys have for pre-production so that all the team could be on the same page. And I'm sure you bring that over to the clients to see so that they can see how the progressions.
Yeah, exactly. So the software element of our technology is a 3D visualizer. That is the backbone of what the software is doing. So when it does come to, hey, how do I create this thing? The next question is like, well, how do I see it? Right. You know, I can't invest all of this significant amount of cost, to visualize what it would look like, at scale or even, you know, a POC real life brick and mortar sort of concept. So the tool itself is a 3D visualizer and it's pixel accurate. So you define all of the various parameters within the technology and then you can see what that looks like. The technology was originally created for, U2 about 25 years ago. And the idea was, you know, Bono can't visualize what the stage is going to look like by just looking at a piece of content, on, you know, the device playing it back, right? So how do we create the, aesthetic? How do we create the venues? That way you can see very accurately, what to expect. So yeah, exactly that. You know, when, you know, NBA is calling and Glass Court's developing, you know, a technology to, interact with the players in real time, utilizing the same, technology, these beacons, right, that, are very heavily used in theater. You know, we can create that court. We can simulate it. We can say, hey, this is what's going to happen when a player moves across the court and here's how everything tracks along with it. And by the way, we want to use the Notch, real-time engine to deliver those visuals. Here's exactly how it plugs in. So being able to like timeline and sequence and view the show way before everything happens is huge. And so when we're talking about, you know, sponsors wanting to know what their content's going to look like, you know, within a venue, that's the biggest value add is being able to say, hey, here's a previs of that venue, and here's how your ad is going to look. Do you sign off on it? You know, the next evolution of the technology is incorporating, you know, a cloud aspect to it. So that way you can collaborate in real time. You know, if, you know, let's say Jacob is wanting to do something to his venue and, you know, Sunkist wants, you know, oranges bouncing around the stadium. I don't know. Being able to say, hey, here's what this looks like. Does Sunkist sign off on it? Great. Okay. Then let's load it up into the servers and play it back. So having a 3D visualizer has been just, you know, absolutely huge for, pre-visiting this content and being able to use it as a selling tool for their clients.
That's great. And what I've noticed with all four of the companies that you guys work for is that there's proprietary software, proprietary technologies that you all use to either do the visualization or the integration of Unreal Engine and the graphics to fly in and the timing of what's happening at the live, you know, at the live set. And I'm sure, you know, everything that you've done and what many of you may not know, but Globant creates the technology that supports Disneyland or all the Disney parks, which is, can I mention? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But, I'm sure that there's a lot of learning, but is there like a lab or, cause I've been to actually my friend Dana and we've been to the lab over in Utah.
Yep.
And is there, a way that you guys figure out how you're going to introduce new technologies, new innovations in a lab? Like,
Yeah, just my face on that one is, I mean, Disney's our largest client. We've worked with them forever. No, that's fine. That's fine. The only reason is like we give them a lot of, credit for all that they've created. We help, along the way in that sense. And I think that goes back to it's a co-creation process. You find out the places where you can add value and help them define things. Reality is that, and make them happen. Reality is that in many of those cases, you always need a lab. The problem with the stadium is that in many cases, the stadium's not there yet. And you have to figure out, in many cases, you're trying to create a technology that's not there yet. So, I think something that's interesting for venues is that, they are going to become test beds for innovation more so that they've been so far. Many of the things that we did for Into Dome are not present in your airport. So the problem with a good technology is that once you see that, you cannot unsee it. I go to the airport and I'm like, why do I gotta wait in line? Why can I just walk in? Why American Airlines knows more about me than my wife? Like, why do they have me get a ticket and download it every time that I board the plane? So some things are changing in sports because you have such a small time. You have a timeout. You have half time and you have little time to go, make a purchase or what else, that limitation of time really makes it so you have to have best in class decisions and you have to find ways to try them out, to have labs and what else. And also, I think it's going to push sports to be changing at a faster pace as well, because many of the technologies that are going to be coming in the future for frictionless engagement, I think are going to be tested on sports as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to speak to our lab, what we call our experience center. We actually built, coming up on 5 years ago in Salt Lake City. And, as background, I alluded to this previously. There's some interesting history behind Cosm. While we started the company Cosm about 5 years ago, we actually built the company through acquisition. So we acquired a company called Evans and Sutherland on the world's biggest planetarium company with history back to, for example, the first VR headset, the Sword of Damocles, was invented by Ivan Sutherland of Evans and Sutherland. So that history with Evans and Sutherland and Spitz goes back 75 years. And then the best, immersive production companies, in Live Like VR and C360 all were part of kind of building Cosm. But that history of building immersive experiences, which includes close to 800 planetariums and science centers all around the world, traditionally projection, as well as working in the theme parks and entertainment side of the world and driving a lot of those experiences. We knew we had to build an LED version of this because this really was the transformational step going from projection-based dome theaters to LED-based dome theaters. And we did that 5 years ago in Salt Lake City. And that was our test bed for figuring out, hey, how does live basketball look on this thing? And we started with some of the first live sports we showed on that was 4K. It was best in class. Immersive production capability at the time was 4K. For example, we did that in Tokyo in 2021, not 2020. And it just wasn't good enough. In order to have the quality of experience, we knew we had to get to 8K. We have a whole production side of our business that continues to do live immersive production work. We did Beijing in 2022 at 8K, world's really first fully produced end-to-end going to consumer devices. We did that on Quest headsets, in VR with NBC. We did that on Pico headsets, in China with CCTV. But that was the breakthrough for us, seeing that in our Salt Lake City dome that said, this is the experience that we wanted to deliver. It is high enough resolution. You start to get that fidelity of natural eyesight. And that was the jumping off point for not just green lighting for us to build our venues that we built, but also bringing in partners like the NBA, who've been told for, decades that somebody's coming up with the next best thing to sitting courtside. And we finally had that experience and bringing in UFC and the like. So that was our foundation to build the business, the proposition where we are now. And it's also an essential part of all the testing and ongoing work we do going forward, because we're constantly trying to figure out how do we make this experience better, whether it's the capture work that we do on our production side. We're actually custom designed lenses that we recently started using in our productions that are really a breakthrough in terms of the capture quality that we're doing. Testing 120 frames per second instead of 60. Lots of work that we continue to do to keep making Cosm as our venue side better.
I mean, I remember you and a lot of your team coming from Fox Sports and from themed entertainment and decades and decades of experience make up your team. And I'm sure that help influence your decision on acquiring these technologies, acquiring these companies that are already doing what you had learned you needed to bring to the experience without just building from the ground up.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say the most important part of that background is also just understanding the relationships, because at the end of the day, you can build great technology and a great experience, but it's nothing without the content, right? And that is, our experience there has helped us pull the right, and we're very, very fortunate to be working with the best leagues and best broadcasters around. And it's also now opened doors like with The Matrix, working with Warner Brothers, to re-envision for the 25th anniversary what that experience could be.
And then do you have a team, or is it just you that have to, you take the, the comments, you take the wishes and the wish list, and do you have to then figure out what kind of technology is in this?
Yeah, I'm blessed. I have a full-time staff of 7, really talented, really bright individuals that work with me every day, on our team. And everybody has ideas. We all come together, once a quarter, and, we call it our blue sky day. If the sky's blue and money's not an object, what can we do? Then it's my job, to go in and unfortunately sometimes be the fun police, or sometimes say, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And then, I have a test market 42 times a year of 17,000 people. We'll put it out there. So it's, it's not a sports thing, or not a technology thing, but if anybody's ever been to Broadway, we have party buses and pedal taverns on every corner. It's kind of part of our DNA. So I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I don't care. We put a pedal tavern out on the ice one night, and people got on it and went around, and it was a bust, so we never did it again. And we take the same, correct. We take the same, kind of thought with our tech, is we look at something and see, what's going to work, what's going to be really cool, and take that there. But, it's about surrounding yourself with a good team of people who can help point you in the right direction. I have a consultant who's a former Disney Imagineer. I have consultants in the audio world. I have more people, and cause it's Music City in the audio world than I know what to do with some days, cause that's something that's important for us. And, it's bringing all that together to come with these ideas. And then it's, how can we monetize it? How can we turn it into a sponsorship? So, and how can you get information out of it? So, we have a thing where you can scan a QR code, send a picture, and it's up on the scoreboard, right? Well, we're able to get that back end data from that, when we know your game, we know your demographics, and we're able to target, more content for you, invite you to come to more events, spend, hopefully more of your hard-earned dollar and enjoy our experience. So, that's kind of the thought process, is getting fans into seats and then turning into ad revenue at the end of the day, all while providing the best experience possible.
That's great. Something that comes to mind is, and I love it that we can talk about when we fail, right? Because we say fail fast. And when I go to an event and the panel is talking about their failures, it's just beneficial for all of us. It's going to accelerate our process to making our vending work and bringing in the audience, making that engagement, learning from people like the ones that were off the stage. And, one question that, I want to talk about now is, there's a challenge that all of us face is brick and mortar is tough, right? Brick and mortar it's sometimes hard to scale. It's hard to monetize and continue that repeated monetized model. So will any of you maybe talk about how have you figured out like systems, or, is it an app, right? Ways that, okay, that's, the live part is always going to be, it's all hands on deck. It's hard to scale when it's a one-off production, but I think all of us, a lot of us in the audience, we've all figured out the different ways to take that experience, but then extend it, before the game, beyond the game. I mean, figuring out where I'm going to eat for the day, or figuring out, hey, what's the parking situation going to be? So there's that part of what you guys have been figuring out of expanding the fans.
So I think just quick one on that one. When you make the right experience, you're more likely to know more about your fans, right? So they're gonna be likely to create an account. They're gonna likely to be having a loyalty, rewards platform with them. So what ends up happening is that in turn becomes, an avenue for improving your business KPIs. You can either sell more hot dogs or tickets. You can book more shows. You can actually show more value to your sponsors, because you can tell about your audience, but more importantly, I think it can help create another business lines. And sports I think that's a place where venues has a lot to do with what Disney did. Disney is, the beacon of digital transformation, because they turned the visit in 3 days. And I know you before, like 6 months before, you're going to be planning, you're going to be booking, you're going to be planning, you're going to be coming here. And then after you leave, you're going to come back for your memories. So it created a channel which the cost of acquisition for a new client becomes a lot lower. You don't need to go and market and buy ads to really advertise. People are embedded, and that's the best kind of loyalty when your technology becomes a dialogue with your guests, with your fans, I think that's an inherent benefit to the lifetime value of your customers.
I'll jump in. And one of the things we benefit from is, there's a lot of natural virality to our experience. And, we always joke that it's the best selfie station around. We can take a picture and make you look like you are at the, NCAA championships tonight. And while we get a lot of that earned, it's, we also spend a lot of time just thinking about the overall experience beyond just that moment, making sure that, the ticketing experience is great. We actually built out our own ticketing, solution ourselves, not just because we wanted it to be best in class in terms of ease of use, but also because we want to know our customers, first party, our fans, as we say. We also, developed our own F&B programs in-house because when you come to our venues, we want you to have an elevated experience across the board. These aren't, stadium style seats that you're in comfortable couches. You get food to your seat. And, it's a mostly scratch kitchen. We're doing fantastic food in our venues. So thinking about all those touch points, coming back to, how do we drive the business? Those elements are critical to drive the business. So we drive those repeat visits coming back, not just counting on the external, social shareability of the experience, but instead, what's critical is somebody leaves our venues and regardless of whether their team won or lost, regardless of, what was on the display, did they have a great experience at every other touch point?
I mean, for us, we're always just working to perfect the technology in a sense where, we really strive for no failure. Taylor Swift walking in front of 118,000 people, you can't have those visuals go out, right? Sphere powering up, to have U2 opening up, you can't have that go out, right? So, we're constantly working to, refine the system and we have, great redundant strategies. That way you don't necessarily need one-to-one servers for everything there, but you have this automatic failover so that way nobody in the venue would even know anything happened. So although failure's there and something that we look for, we constantly strive, to work with the community to figure out, hey, what could go wrong and where do we need to sort of block and tackle ahead of time. So that way when production goes live, we know what to expect.
Yeah, and kind of to go off what Dan said, in a live event, room for failure 0. The clock stops working. We're not playing hockey. That's a problem. But, driving that entire interaction, we're not quite as cool as Intuit Dome just yet, where we still have a ticket. But, you access your ticket through our app. And then, when you get to the arena, you can order food at a concession stand through our app and go pick it up, and then after the game, every promotion. So, say we scored four goals that night and you get free Frosties on your way home. You got to show them on your app, right? So it's driving that, getting, all that consumer data and, kind of understand our audience and drive that experience from there. On top of that, it's about being a good community partner. That's the name of the game. We're a non-traditional hockey team in a non-traditional hockey market. So, there's a lot of other things to do in Nashville, but it's being out in the community, being active, being, we're blessed to be in the Hockeyverse, do an animated game on local television, with our partners, the NHL, using, next generation puck tracking technology. Things like that, to kind of drive that brand awareness. So when people do come to your arena, they look at your brand in a good light and you're able to grow from there and just improve it.
It's great. And one thing I've noticed is through line is with all of you that are running venues that you're creating efficiencies and that's going to just naturally raise the revenue. So that's where I also see. So, we have about 2 minutes left. Probably have time for 1 or 2 questions. Any questions from the audience? Oh, got 1 or 5.
Each of you have identified people are key in your teams. Those innovators, can you describe how are you raising that talent or finding that talent? What's that part of the formula we're missing?
Did everyone hear that? So they all have teams, and how do you find the talent? How do you nurture the talent to then add to the process? Is that more or less?
I mean, I'll jump in and say, I often say that the hiring, because we've been growing tremendously in the last 5 years, the hiring is the most important thing that I do. And that's making sure that we're bringing in the right people. And frankly, it also starts by, one of the things we were lucky enough to do is hire people we were before, to help start the business. We started with through the acquisition, an incredible foundation of incredibly smart people, and then giving them the challenges that, a new market presents. So taking somebody who has literally perfected how LED should look for the Milky Way to look super, dim, and that's really hard with LED to drive it very, at low voltages effectively. Our software is doing driving every single pixel, itself. And so the fact that we have the technical expertise on our team that is solved for what actually fascinatingly enough is an incredibly challenging use case, which is a planetarium use case, means that same expertise now, and again, getting to the point of like giving them new challenges, but now taking that to drive an NBA game, that's easy, right? So just taking, and what I would come back to is hiring the right people and then making sure we're giving them great challenges to work on and clear understanding of what we're trying to accomplish.
One thing that I would add is, I mean, we're 30,000 software engineers around the world, right? So I think our problem would be even finding which is the right one for the task in hand. Hiring is definitely an important portion. We work a lot about creating ecosystems for people to become the best version of themselves. So communities of practices. And we've worked on, once we thought that was the solution, we realized that actually somebody's going to be part in one community and another part in another community. So you also have to create a more rich ecosystem to handle the complexity of talent. But then we also had to build a lot of tools to identify what people know. Actually, we built one with AI that we thought was going to be solving the solution. Turns out it solves 5% of the problems. Most cases, people just want to solve with the regular tools. And when it's really, really, really complicated, they go to AI. But the more important portion, I think, is culture. The tools that we built to create a culture that's replicable around different offices around the world and what else was really important to creating the connections that then make a lot of it flow a lot easier.
A question about venues and extending the experience beyond those sitting in the seats. Anyone want to comment about that? One concept is HoloLens, that you can wear a HoloLens and then your friends can watch the game through your eyes, so to speak. Could anyone comment about how their thoughts on how they might want to extend that experience for a fan who is not there?
I'll jump in on this one because that's basically core to our business. And on one hand, let me also say that, we have, I think by far done more, live immersive sports to VR headsets than anybody else as well. And that's at 4K and 8K and really our team's pioneered a lot of those workflows for VR distribution. But we also saw the opportunity outside of somebody on the couch at home with a headset on. How do we give that immersive experience to people who are across the world? We did 2 Premier League games yesterday morning, that were watched live in Los Angeles and Dallas with hundreds of fans in their kits singing their songs, right? And so, yeah, bringing and really democratizing access to those experiences and giving them the best seats in the house. That's core to what we do.
All right. Thank you.
We can do one more, apparently.
Yeah, we're great. Time for one more question. Anybody else?
Those of you who manage venues, what would you say is the most cost-effective benefit you have done for your fans? What have you been able to do for your fans at low cost?
So the question is, what low cost solutions have you come up with for your venues, for your fans?
I mean, I guess we can say by having like a 3D pre-visualizer as the core software, you save a lot of time, which is essentially money. So being able to create your entire environment within a software and then previs exactly how that'll look, I'd say that's been a huge, benefit. That's usually what we get is just how much time is saved.
Good Wi-Fi. I mean, it's an expensive but important piece, right? Because your phone's essentially, it's an extension of your limbs now, right? And there's so much that you can put inside that extends your experience, that's low cost. There's companies that'll help every sports team make an app for pennies on the dollar. Every mid-major college team has one now. It's awesome. So, providing the connectivity within the facility to actually be able to drive it, that part can get a little pricey, but, just being able to extend that digital arm, it's way cheaper than an LED screen, and it's way cheaper than a massive, broadcast infrastructure in a facility.
If I can add just one little thing, because like a 2 billion venues, not necessarily cheap, but you'd be surprised about the many building blocks that you stack up to build. Like we try to build as little as we could, and we decided to go a little bit overboard in name of the experience. But what you shouldn't be giving up either way is the journey, right? So have the building blocks, try not to build anything that you don't need to, but map out what's the journey of the fan and which are the touch points in which you can learn from them. Because what I feel as a fan in general when I go to a venue is that it's very scatter. Like it's very disconnected. I have to be finding what's the next friction point on my own. And I think there are some things that can be done, by just making sure that the elements and the products that were bought are tied up together in a cohesive journey for the fan.
Well, sadly we're out of time, but on behalf of all of them and myself, I just wanted to thank all of you for being here and hopefully brought some value. And please join me in a round of applause for our speakers.